physical beings have been trained backwards because you're action-oriented. So you've come to believe, most of you, that you will get to where you want to be by pushing against or defeating what you don't want. So most of you in these habits or patterns that you've developed have developed patterns of pushing against what you don't want. So much so that even as we talk about what you do want, most of you say what you don't want. In other words, it's part of your vibration, war against, war against, war against. And all of those things are getting bigger because the law says when you say yes to something, you give your attention to it, you vibrate with it, and you attract it. When you say no to something, you give your attention to it, you vibrate with it, and you attract it. So whether you are saying yes or no, you are attracting it. And so all this stuff you've been saying no, 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 you've actually been saying yes, 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 but you haven't understood that, so it seems like things are messed up. It seems like things are not fair. It seems like there's something you don't understand. So, as you've been saying no to things but getting them, and yes to things but not getting them, because it's not the words, it's the vibration, most of you who you are describing that are now coming up with the word surrender come to a place of strong frustration. So when it gets bad enough that you say, I give up, there is a release of all of that pushing against, and a momentary, short or long, allowance now of who you really are to flow through you. In short, what you do is you stop the resistance that you've developed as a result of wanting so much and not being able to figure out how to get it. Now, there's a whole lot easier way, and that is talk about what you want and why you want it. In other words, even though it's once you start understanding about flowing energy, then you don't have to surrender, because every time you're feeling positive energy, you are literally allowing it. In other words, we would say that your definition of surrender is allowing who you really are to flow through you, which means you've stopped the resistance. You see, the only difference worth mentioning between you as you are physically focused and the pure positive energy being that you really are, your inner being or non-physical self, is that your inner being never addresses lack. And when you do, you vibrate out of range. So all of that lackful awareness is what has set up all that resistance. So when you stop feeling lack, you stop resistance. That's why we teach meditation. When you meditate, you quiet your mind. When you quiet your mind, you stop thought. When you stop thought, you stop any resistant thought. So when you have no resistant thought, then your inner being floods fully into you. That's why when you meditate, it feels so good. You quiet your mind, you stop the resistance, you surrender, and you are full of yourself, you see. So now what we're saying is, there's more to life than quieting your mind. In fact, most of you have a very hard time quieting your mind because you have a conscious thinking mechanism. You came forth intending to flow energy. So meditating is good because you stop resistant thought, but meditating is not all that great because you're not flowing energy consciously. You see what we're getting at? So, when you are in the mode of appreciation, you have it all. You're connected to pure positive energy, and you're flowing it towards something. We would teach appreciation instead of meditation, except that we found it's a lot easier to teach you to meditate than it is to be positive. Because you have a lot of habits, you see. It's a lot easier to teach you to quiet your mind than it is to teach you to have pure positive thought. So the meditation is the first step. The meditation is the way you taste pure positive energy. Some of you taste it in out-of-body experiences. Some of you taste it in near-death experiences. Some of you wait till you die to taste it. And some of you are learning to taste it through appreciation, through applauding, through basking, you see. So what you discover is that it's an incremental thing. It doesn't come on you all at once, and that's another thing that keeps happening. You keep awakening to more and more and more and more. There is not an ending to it. And as long as you're enjoying what is, then you don't feel lack. The tendency with physical is to say, well, if there is more later, then I must not be getting enough now. And therein lies your greatest hindrance. In knowing what you want, if you are always looking to what will be, you will never be satisfied with what is. And until you are satisfied with what is, you cannot grow to what will be. Are you getting the sense of why we keep wanting to pointing you back to your now? Because all of your power is in your now. And you can feel how you're using it. You can feel it. When you're feeling good, when you feel elated, when you feel appreciative, when you feel happy, it's flowing through you. And the valve opens and closes, doesn't it? You can open it wide or pinch it up a little bit. And you do a little bit of all of it. But each time you do it, don't you get clear about which you prefer? So when you start saying, nothing is more important than that I feel good, you alert yourself consciously to how you're flowing energy. And then you stop nitpicking over the details of life. Who's right, who's wrong? How did I get here? How did they get there? Instead of counting all those grains of sand, you say, how am I flowing energy? And how do I want to flow energy? And then you start choosing focal points that feel good, and you find yourself less and less willing to choose focal points that don't feel good, and then you're more eternally connected. In other words, then things really begin to roll. Then you begin to live like you intended. Then you begin to fulfill your purpose. Then you begin to discover your never-ending unfolding. There is this source that I can flow with, which is, as opposed to holding myself apart from it. In other words, the lack of what is wanted is usually your opponent. And so if you say surrendering is the releasing of pushing against, surrendering is no longer opposing, then we say you have a winning concept, no matter how you look at it. Good.
Thank you.
It is helpful, however, as soon as you've surrendered, to begin identifying what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you start giving direction to your own experience. And if you're not giving direction to your own experience, you're not fulfilling your purpose. You're not flowing energy, you see.